Alright, so you're playing Deadeye in 2026, or whatever the current year is. Congratulations, that either means you love the class or have simply spent so much money on underwear for her that you are now financially committed to playing it as your main forever. Whatever your situation, I will go over how to play this class, how it functions in its current state. For those who don't know, Deadeye has had dozens of changes over the past year, and now my old guide is completely out of date. Yeah, so the first thing you want to do on Deadeye is make your UI look like this. Alright, no, I'm kidding. I'll just keep it serious this time. Deadeye has 3 weapons at her disposal: her pistols, her shotgun, and a rocket launcher. Now, we are only going to be really interested in the pistols and shotgun since they comprise 90% of the kit. Also, any skills in the Mainhand category will scale 100% off of your Mainhand and Offhand AP level. And your Awakening weapon will only scale off of your rocket launcher level. Unfortunately, at the time of making this video, these rocket skills are not very good. First of all, there's not very many of them. They require long charge ups to achieve any sort of damage, and their damage has been nerfed, so that using them is not really attractive at all. When we get to the PvE rotation, you'll see they are not even part of the Deadeye PvE rotation. So for anyone looking to gear a Deadeye, do your main hand and offhand first. Alright, so PvE. Yes, we are talking about grinding. Now is a great time to talk about normal rounds and Marnie rounds. Which should you use? Well, that's a great question. To make it very simple, if you are in melee range of most of the mobs in the pack you are hitting, or you are dealing damage to a single target, stick with the normal rounds. In all other situations, the wider AoEs of Marnie rounds are going to give you more consistent damage. So if you're at places where the packs are spread out, go with that. And yes, because normal rounds get bonus melee damage, this does mean that Deadeye tends to perform a little bit better at spots where she's able to use them effectively. So I'm thinking places like Star's End or Zephyros Castle. She does very well there. So for PvE, these are currently the best Rabam skills to be using: Final Draw, Rain and Bullets, and Perfect Storm. This just got a bunch of buffs, so it's now very good. And these are the skill add-ons I'm using. I'll just leave those up for a second. And your PvE rotation should look something like this.
I'm the fastest gun around.
So that combo does loop back into itself. Also, Darkseekers is kind of a unique spot where I swap to Marnie rounds after the first 2 Darkseekers are dead, just because the second pack is more loosely grouped, and I find it a little bit more consistent to kill them with the Marnie rounds. So it's a good chance to show you how both different types of ammo types work. Just a couple final tips for grinding on Deadeye. First of all, your RMB, Hell Spread, applies a DP debuff, so you want to use it to hit as many mobs as possible. Make sure you hit them all as you start doing your combo. Second, you're free to use all of your filler mobility skills, such as Running Gun, Max Pain, Sidewinder, etc., to reposition in between your combo to get back attacks for your big damage. So always be looking for those back attacks. Alright, PvP. Now we're getting to the good stuff. So, my last guide did cover the general playstyle of Deadeye in PvP and explained all of her unique mechanics like her e-buff, so I will not be going over that again. I will instead just go over what has changed, what we have to do differently, and what current builds I am using for capped and uncapped. Okay, so let's talk about what's changed on Deadeye since my last video. The first major nerf was the stun being removed from WF. This used to be a great tool to get behind forward guards. Now it is strictly just SA damage. That stun was moved to Shift F, Bullet Storm. This stun only hits on the first hit of the skill, so if you're fishing for a CC and you don't get it on the first hit, there's no need to linger it. One thing about this, the first hit comes out significantly faster if you use it in combination after another skill. So if you use Running Gun, the first tick actually comes out reasonably quick. Second, Deadeye's stamina has been significantly nerfed. Almost all of her stamina using abilities have been increased in cost, with the sole exception being Sidewinder, which was moved from 300 to 200. So, um, she typically runs out of stamina much more quickly during fights and will need to reset her stamina at some point during most engagements. Finally, her rocket launcher damage was somehow nerfed. These skills were already used very situationally and are now used even more situationally. Typically, only when somebody has their back turned to you or is unaware of you or is focusing somebody else and you can get some of them off. But yeah, those are the main nerfs. Now let's move on to uncapped PvP builds. For Raboms, we are going to be using Final Draw. This is used as a re-CC or occasional fish. It's unprotected, it's a knockdown. Usually use it in the middle of my combos as a re-CC. Dragon's Breath is a frontal guard, a shotgun skill that applies a down smash at a low percent chance. I have rarely seen this work, to be honest with you. Finally, we go Dust Devil Kaboom. This is really efficient damage trade for a quick skill animation and its super armor. However, I know a lot of Deadeyes do use Perfect Storm. The skill has been buffed a couple times. It gives a small dash of mobility and does a little bit of damage. It's also useful for recovering stamina and lingering SA, and has extra HP regen on it. I think it's a good skill. I think this one is personal preference, so play with it and do what you like. For my skill add-ons, this is what I am using for Uncapped. I will leave this on the screen just for a minute. Thought behind this is you want crit hit rate. It's very important. I like putting damage reduction on Gunslinger's entrance just because it stacks with the natural DP debuff that the shotgun skills apply. Ult Switcheroo, this is very efficient damage trade, so you put your minus DR crit damage on it. I like a little bit extra damage reduction on Mayhem just because it helps you trade a little bit when you're lingering essays. Attack speed and running gun, movement speed for target. This one is just a personal one for me. I find it helps me stick to targets a little bit better when I'm using running gun. Maybe this one isn't for everyone. And I put accuracy and minus evasion on Shift Q just because it helps with those evasion targets. You could also put this on your airborne rocket skill. Those are really the only two main rocket skills you use frequently in PvP, so use your evasion tread there. Has good synergy with the rockets that also have natural minus 36 evasion. Crystal builds. Alright, this is the first uncapped crystal build I use. I run 1 hunt accuracy. I think evasion players are becoming more and more prevalent, so I think having one is good. This is a glass cannon build, used specifically if you are the main damage dealer in your ball, and your job is to contribute as much damage as possible before dying. Like I said, this is very glass cannon, and the drawback is that if you find yourself skirmishing against classes like Hashes, like Sages, like Musas, things like that, it is not going to trade HP very efficiently into these classes, and you will likely need help from your ball. So, keep in mind, glass cannon damage dealer build right here. I'll leave that for a second. Now, if you are playing as a skirmisher or a rat in your ball and will be trying to duel those other rat classes that I just mentioned, you're going to want more DR. I'd probably drop these 2 Mac loads even for more armor, but DR still remains a very efficient stat. And so stacking that and along with HP is going to help you win those trades much, much better than a glass cannon build. I do not use this build very often. I typically prefer the full glass cannon damage dealer role within my ball. Finally, we will look at the capped crystals. So these are what I use for all T1 and T2 Node Wars. We'll just go through it. First of all, you want 5 Bond Black Spirit Rages. This, when you throw on an Acido belt, still lets you hit 200% BSR to consume for the AP buff, so that's very important. These 2 Histrias now give 600 HP, or sorry, 600 stamina, which I think is now mandatory for the class. And the rest is very standard for any class in T1 and T2s. I think this is pretty much in line with what most classes will use. It's pretty universal. So, yeah, those are my crystal builds for PvP. Finally, I know this is probably the most requested part of any PvP video, combos. Let me preface this by saying I think the focus of any Deadeye should be dealing damage while staying protected and managing your stamina and making sure that your positioning is good. Our CC options are now very limited and usually rely on other players making large mistakes to get CC'd. However, I will show you a couple combo routes that she has. As always, she has no protected knockdown. That has not changed, so your re-CC options are very limited and oftentimes will be risky and unprotected unless you are using a stun, a second stun, as a re-CC, something like this. But for the rest of your normal knockdown combos, you will leave a gap somewhere, so just keep that in mind. Without further ado, here are some combo options for Deadeye on the current patch.
Time to meet your maker.
So that does conclude everything I wanted to talk about in this updated guide. I've covered all the changes that have been made to the class, showed you guys the current builds that I am using in PvP, and even went over some PvE stuff since I know some people had been asking about that. Also, I would be remiss if I did not direct you guys towards the Deadeye Discord. I will show that link in the description. The staff there are extremely helpful. Most of them put together all of the knowledge that I've shared with you here, and would not be where I am on the class today if not for the people there, especially the moderators like Ukasian. Shout out to him. Great Deadeye players that are still playing the class and can answer any further questions. I do hope this guide gives you a good head start into the class, gets you started if you are, still looking to learn and play this class. I still think it's a great class. I still love the aesthetic. I think after the nerfs, it's still a decent class. It still performs its function as a close range damage dealer. If I had to suggest any changes, I'd probably look at the rocket skills and making them more integrated into her kit. But that is probably a discussion for an entire video of where they could take this class in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching the video, and if you do want to see more Deadeye gameplay, I'm streaming almost all of our Node Wars for Omniscient on Twitch. I will put the link in the description and on the screen. Please check that out if you want to come watch some Deadeye, and I can answer any further questions you have there. But yeah, as always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching if you made it this far, and more videos coming soon.